So hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about what the Arcus and Müsing bows have in common and what separates them. I've been asked that many times by players who have not tried them, but also by some who have tried them who wanted to understand the differences. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's start with what the Arcus and Müsing bows have in common, and which might separate them from other bows. Well, first and foremost, they are both designed for modern strings. The strings we're all playing nowadays, silver, tungsten, steel, aluminum, various plastic materials for the calls and whatnot. So modern, very powerful strings that also demand a strong bow, and for which wooden bows are usually, not usually, all of them are actually too soft for modern bows, which you can easily find out when you play forte, fortissimo, double stops, because all the time you're bottoming out. You're playing with a stick instead of the hair, or with a combination of both. And that is something you want to avoid to make a beautiful sound. And that was the first and foremost intention when I initially designed the Arcus bows. And of course, it's also a very important point when we developed the Müsing bows. And you can get there only, you have the material choice is very simple. If you want to make such a strong bow, all you can use is carbon fiber. Now, luckily, carbon fiber is a material with fantastic properties, not only for the mechanical aspects, but also for the resonance quality. The fibers in itself is like, it's ringing like glass. It's almost no damping, it's wonderful. But you have to use resin to keep the fibers in place, otherwise it would be just a loose cloth or something. So epoxy is the second ingredient, which we also have in our bow. So it's carbon fiber and epoxy. There the differences begin because the carbon fibers are not the same. The epoxy is not exactly the same, in the way they get together is quite different. But I'll talk about that a little later. So, the same material, basically. And what's also true is that both types of bows are hollow and thin-walled. And they are very light. The bows are lighter than traditional bows. They're much stronger, as I already explained. They're much more durable. So that they all have that in common. They are very robust, so you can play col legno, no problem. It will not damage the string. So you can, if need be, you can do that for hours, if you ever wish to. I wouldn't, but okay. So, and last but not least, it's the quality of the fittings, like the frog, and of course the rehair, the windings, the leather. Our famous metal bearings here for the screw, which we have in both bow types, both the Arcus and the Müsing. So which makes them run smoothly forever, basically. So it's this high quality of fittings. You know, only a frog of an Arcus bow costs more in production than a full bow made in China. You know, and that's not only because of labor cost, but because of the quality of the materials used. And they're the same all over the world. All right, so that's what they have in common. Now, what's the difference between the Arcus and the Müsing bows? Well, they have so much in common. Well, the key difference is the intentions that we put in the design of the bows. The initial idea of the Arcus bows has always been to design and make the best possible bow, the most powerful, the lightest, strongest, fastest, biggest sounding bow, no matter the cost. We just wanted to make the finest bow ever. So, did we achieve that? Well, that's up to you to decide. I say yes, but okay. Now, the intention with the Müsing bows was quite a different one. As the Arcus bows are a little bit on the expensive side, which can be avoided if you go for the best solution only. So there is a problem that there's the supply of Pernambuco has ended fundamentally in the year 2007 when I was put on the red list of endangered species. So wooden bow making is slowly coming to an end. As soon as those stocks are used up, you know, you just can't regrow Pernambuco trees and make them 1,000-year-old magically, like overnight, to get real fine Pernambuco wood. And these trees grow really, really slow to develop a good quality wood. But so that's one aspect. But the other is there are just too many crappy carbon fiber bows out there that really spoil the joy in playing. They kind of sound dull, play sluggish, and that's all a problem of too much resin, respectively epoxy. You know, when you have too much resin in a bow, it just dampens the sound really badly. I'll explain. I'm explaining that in some other videos too. But so with the Arcus bows, we were going to a percentage of carbon to epoxy of something like 70% to 30%, or even better, going to 75-25% in volume. So an Arcus bow actually consists from mostly carbon fiber, and it's the only bow that is like that until we started the Müsing bows. In a Müsing bow, we have 60% carbon fiber and 40% resin, which is still very good if you look at other carbon fiber bows where it's the other way around, like 60-70% is epoxy, plastic, and only 30-40% is actually carbon fiber. And the result is a sound which is quite amazing. I'll talk about that a little later. That's really, really good. Yeah, more later. So the wall thickness that we get, the Müsing bows are made completely from braided material. So like carbon fiber holes or sleeve if you want, and resin is injected. It's a very tricky process, and it's a pretty new technology. Very, very few products on this planet are made this way. Proper product and good ones, because it is really tricky. We're working on this family of bows now for something like 5 years, or 6 actually, and we're still not 100% there. So the quality is very, very good, but we still produce a lot of rejects, so bows that are not good enough, where we have problems that the resin is not everywhere, or there's too much, or, you know, in the wrong places. So of course we don't make a bow from such a stick, but as I said, it's a very, very tricky process. The process of making an Arcus bow is no less tricky, but in very different ways. And we use unidirectional fibers in prepregs, and also cloth in prepregs. So that means the carbon fiber is already impregnated with the resin and then put in the mold in many different layers. It's like a gigantic puzzle, and that stuff's really sticky. So getting that all right into the mold is quite a challenge, which we have mastered over the years. It took a long time to really get that to perfection, but yeah. But the difficulties lay on very different fields. So for the Arcus bows, it's much more the skill of the worker, the bow maker, and in the Müsing bows, it requires also a lot of skill, but the process is really what is the tricky part. And the intention behind it is, of course, that we can make the Müsing bows much faster, or, well, let's say in a more moderate volume of work hours. And for that, we've developed quite some tricks. Like, for example, the tip plate is an integral part of the head. So the tip plate is made with the stick, so it can never fall off or separate somehow, because it's one piece. While, for example, in an Arcus bow, the tip plates are made from solid silver or gold, even in the high-end bows, and it's a pretty lengthy process where you have to grind the head to perfection and then glue on the silver tip plate and then smooth it all down and polish it up. So that's only the tip plate takes about as much time to make as a Müsing stick. So much about the production. The result is that an Arcus bow can have a real thin wall thickness. So that's absolutely record-breaking. We go to 0.7 millimeters only for the wall thickness. This is, yeah, as you can see, cut open Arcus bow. So 0.7 millimeter, less than a millimeter. That's like a couple of sheets of paper. The Müsing bow is quite a bit thicker, like 1.2 millimeter roughly. So we can't go that thin. But that's fine. I mean, we're still much thinner and much more consistent than, for example, those Chinese sticks or American sticks where, yeah, you find funny stuff inside. Pockets of resin, and this, I believe they call this a Kevlar core, which is, I don't know, probably inside to make production possible, but, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Anyways, so the result is in the Arcus bows is we can make and want to make the bows like 15% lighter than traditional bows, roughly. And while the Müsing bows are only 10% lighter, so they're still light and maneuverable. And the other big difference here is when you look at the rigidity or stiffness or elasticity of the sticks, and let's say go from a wooden stick to a Müsing stick and an Arcus stick, you feel this is, well, normal or soft, whatever. The Müsing bow has a resiliency that's about 50% better, and the Arcus bow is actually twice as strong as a wooden bow. So it's double the resiliency. So that's quite a difference. And for the Arcus bows, we want them to be so stiff because we want them to be absolutely powerful and basically unlimited. So whatever your instrument has to offer or whatever your strings can supply, an Arcus bow will bring it out. So it's absolutely a bow for professionals, for soloists and whatnot. The Müsing bow, not that much. It is made to match modern strings and well-built instruments, so you can play them full throttle, but it's not made to play them at like 110%. That's the territory of the Arcus bow. So next up my list is playing characteristics, and after that I'll talk about sound, so you know what's coming. So playing characteristics. That is the key difference between the Arcus and the Müsing bows. as I said in the beginning, the Arcus bows are made for maximum performance, no matter what. Which of course also makes them demanding. So you'd better have developed some bowing skills before you go playing with an Arcus bow, which of course most players have once they are ready to invest €1,000 or 2 or 3 or 4 in a bow. So it's quite normal. And then the really interesting bit starts here. You can do stuff with an Arcus bow that's just not on any other bow. You can play with a precision and variability and with power that is just really amazing. And when you go back to wooden bow or any other normal bow, you'll be missing that a lot. It just offers so much possibilities to express yourself, to articulate, to cross strings in wild manners and stuff. You figure out all new fingerings and things. So it's those endless possibilities that an Arcus bow offers that are just amazing. That's not what the Müsing bow is made for. The Müsing bow is designed for the ease of playing and for a forgiving playing style. Let me quickly demonstrate that to you. So one of the biggest challenges maybe is like when you play off-string bowings and legato bowings in succession, and keep both under good control and with a good tone production. Let me start this with slightly soft wooden bows, lighter wooden bow that I have here. This requires all my skills, which, you know, I'm just an amateur player. So, but this really needs my full attention, and still the result is not necessarily exactly what I want. And now I have here a much better wooden bow, an old German one, which is heavier and gives a nicer sound. What happens to me is that in the bouncing bows, I always touch the strings, which I find quite unnerving. It irritates me quite a bit. The attack is smoother, but it's also difficult to control. And when I come back to the legato, the bow keeps bouncing around, and I have to control it. So it's not very easy to do. Let's try a more normal carbon fiber bow. It's got a better stiffness, so it's a little easier to control, but the response is not very good. So at the beginning of every tone, I get a sound or something. So I have to work hard to avoid making too much noise. Now let's try an Arcus bow. So it's a much cleaner sound. I don't know if it's much easier to play, than the other bows, but you definitely don't bottom out. You definitely get a much more interesting sound, and you can do much more stuff on it. So you get the sound like you want it. If you want it a little more crispy, you get it. You want it softer, it's on there. You know, you can choose which sound you want to produce. Now let's see about the Müsing bow. I can fall asleep at the wheel. I mean, it's really, I don't have to think anything about, you know, my right hand. It's just going on automatic. It's more like I need to take care not to fall asleep and, and really keep playing. It's so easy. It's really amazing, and the sound is, let's say, very similar to my better wood bow here. Which is where we arrive at our next chapter. Yeah, you may have heard the same as me. It really is basically subjectively, I would say it's exactly the same sound. Let's try the Arcus. That is definitely not the same sound. It's much cleaner. The overtone range of this is a C4 Müsing, and a wooden bow that would normally be 2 or 3 times its price. So really, when you make a recording, or if you just listen to it, you can really not discern them in their sound. Of course, the Müsing bow plays really so much easier than the wood bows, but the sound is virtually the same. How we got there, I actually don't know. I mean, I had planned to go there. I mean, all my calculations and designs and intentions were going for that goal. So we tried to emulate the sound of a wooden bow with the Müsing bows. And somehow we did. I still haven't developed a clear theory or explanation how we got there, but we arrived there, obviously. Now with the Arcus bow, the sound is much cleaner. It's also more flexible. Means you can modulate it or change it in more interesting ways. It is more open. It's got supreme projection. When you play in a difficult acoustics, you wouldn't believe how much of a difference that makes, or whether that's a full club or, you know, a large concert hall. And you have a great dynamic bandwidth, which means you can play more loudly than with any other bow on this planet, but you can also play very silent. So when you play opera, for example, accompaniment like for arias and stuff, and then the conductor wants a nice but very quiet sound, that's what you can do very nicely with an Arcus bow. With a Müsing bow, yes, you can do it in the limits of, well, more similar to a wooden bow. So it's got a rich, full and clear sound, and for an orchestra player, for an advanced student, it's just fantastic. But a professional player, if you try an Arcus bow, you will not be interested in a Müsing bow. So there you have it. If you have any further question, you know, down below, please leave us a comment, a question, and a remark anyway. So we'll be happy to reply to that. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our channel, of course. There's, as you know, or may have seen, more interesting content down there. And yeah, see you again on the next video. Bye.